Zach, Afghanistan has obviously changed dramatically in the last couple of months. The Taliban are now back in power in Kabul. In the United States, is this viewed as a defeat for the United States, or is it viewed as the inevitable outcome after 20 years? The mission was fulfilled and it was time to simply get out and get on with other priorities.
Well, a little of both, but the way it was done is clearly a black eye. It's not one of our better moments. I think the majority of our country did believe that we were not going to democratize Afghanistan. Therefore, a long-term presence was probably not in the cards. I mean, this is not Europe after World War II. This is not South Korea, where we needed to have a long-term presence. However, the way that this administration handled us leaving Afghanistan is just horrible in many, many ways, from the military leadership to the president. It's not one of our finer moments. So it was really awful. There's a lot of responsibility to go around. Hopefully a lot of lessons are learned. But no, there was consensus on leaving, but not the way we left. We should have never closed our Air Force Base. We should have had everyone out of there before the lights were turned out. It was almost the other way around, and it sort of exposes some of the weaknesses of our current president. And of course, the Republicans are preying on those weaknesses.
So, Zach, why isn't it like South Korea? Why wasn't there a sense that a garrison could be kept in Kabul to prop up the elected government of Afghanistan? What are the differences between South Korea and Afghanistan?
Well, I think centuries of tribalism and fighting among themselves is one difference. But I also would tell you, I'm not a neocon, but I felt like if we'd have left the 2,500 troops on the ground, we had no deaths there in 18 months. Frankly, it was a stabilizing force, and it was almost like holding your finger in the bottom of the boat when you don't want the water to come in. That finger was just jerked out, and then obviously the Taliban overtook everybody much quicker than anyone had thought. But there was plenty of information. Many members of Congress were saying 3 and 4 months ago, don't do this in a precipitous way. You have to have an orderly withdrawal. So it was really more the way it was done than why it was done. But also, we needed after 9/11 to have some stability in the Middle East. And now the Taliban has a place from which to operate and export terrorism. So George Bush was right. We're either going to fight him over there, or we're going to fight him over here. Unfortunately, I'm afraid now we're going to fight him more over here. Now, having said that, I do think, Christopher, that the one thing that brings Republicans and Democrats together in this country is China. And I do think there's a big focus now on the Indo-Pacific region, the moves that China is making from cyber to currency. Their globalization and their presence around the world. They've been investing in Africa for decades now. China is the one thing that brings Republicans and Democrats together in this country. Afghanistan did not.
Do you feel, Zach, in a way that Obama began the dismantling of the United States presence in Afghanistan? Trump really hastened that when he said that the U.S. would definitely be leaving, and then released the 5,000 Afghan militia who had previously been in prison, the Taliban militia. And Biden, in many ways, was left holding the baby. And I agree that the precipitate way it was that the Americans left really added to the sense of crisis. But there was an inevitability about it in Afghanistan, which I think the point you're making is that there's more unity in the US about China and the Indo-Pacific, and a pivot to the Indo-Pacific from the US. Is that the way you're looking at it?
Yeah, but I don't think it was an intentional pivot. To be honest with you, I think the withdrawal of Afghanistan was just a campaign promise that Biden had made a long, long time ago, and he was going to follow through with it no matter what. Is the Trump administration culpable here? Of course they are. I mean, Secretary Pompeo, his Secretary of State, has tried to put the best face on this that he could of what they did. But like you said, releasing the prisoners, doing business with the Taliban, I mean, from Kim Jong-un in North Korea to the Taliban, the Trump administration was trying to make deals with bad guys all around the world, and some of that came home to roost. So it's not all on Biden, but the way it was done is on Biden. President Andrew Jackson used to say in this country, to the victor goes the spoils, but to the victor also goes the responsibility. This is not Trump's responsibility. He's not the president. I don't know if he would have honored those deadlines and the timing. I don't know if he would have changed and left the 2,500 troops there. I don't think he would have ever agreed to this kind of precipitous withdrawal, but this is on Biden. You can't get around it. This is on Biden. This is his watch, his responsibility. It was not done well. It's not one of our finer moments. We should be ashamed of our leadership right now. And I mean, the good news for the world is we have a great crop of new young leaders. I mean, I'm hoping Dan Crenshaw or Governor Ron DeSantis is the next president. We got a great group of younger leaders. The older guys need to just get out of the way, Christopher, and make room for the younger guys, because we don't really need it. I mean, if you're a patient in healthcare, you don't want the 78-year-old doing surgery on you. And this country needs surgery right now. We need younger Americans in leadership.
It's nice to see a Tennessean quoting the only Tennessean president, Andrew Jackson, Zach, bringing him back, which is great to see.
What do you expect, man? To the victor goes the spoils, and to the victor goes the responsibility to govern. So this one's on President Biden.
I hear that. So do you think that there'll be a more coherent strategy from the US now on the Indo-Pacific, that the military chiefs will be able to control the agenda in a way that has the Biden administration, the White House, focused on the Indo-Pacific in a way that perhaps it hasn't been in the last 4 or 5 years, where, you know, regardless of what you think of President Trump, and we'll talk a bit about the Republicans after the break, you know, it hasn't been exactly a consistent or even a predictable strategy from the White House for several years. Do you think now that Afghanistan is out of the US's hair to an extent, that they'll be able to focus more on things like Taiwan, South China Sea, East China Sea, and their relationship with Beijing?
Yeah, and I think they need to lean heavily on President Biden's experience in the United States Senate, because Senate Foreign Relations, Republicans and Democrats pretty much agree on China and basically the threat they are to our presence around the world and our position in the world, our allies' positions in the world. So this is where I do think we'll have a more coherent strategy. I think we'll have a lot more unity. I think we'll be more organized because people expect us to be. And again, everybody in this country hates what happened in Afghanistan because it didn't have to happen that way. We all know that. We all know we're better than that. You know, we got the best military in the world. We just didn't exercise them. We even didn't listen to them. I don't think the civilian leadership listened to the generals and the intelligence leaders leading into the Taliban's takeover of the entire country. But when it comes to China, I do think it'll be much more unifying. And I think the rest of the world can count on us again. But I also believe that a lot of people in this country are looking past this administration now, which is not a good position to be in because we got 3.5 more years of them. The average citizen thinks President Biden is too old now to be president. The average citizen doesn't want the Vice President Harris to be the president, and they certainly don't want the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, to be the president. So we have to wait 3.5 years. We're not like you where the premier can call another election. We have to wait for the schedule. In the next 3.5 years, the Congress needs to exert itself in a bipartisan way so that the president knows what we need to do and gets it done.
And do you think the Congress and the Senate are capable of uniting around a coherent strategy, or will the disunity that's been so prevalent in the United States for the last almost 10 years is going to continue to be the order of the day?
Well, the disunity is a big problem. There's no question. We're as alienated as we've been probably any time in the modern era. I mean, obviously, it was much worse than the Civil War, much, much worse. You know, we've been through tough times before, and as you know, we've pulled out of it many times, but we're sort of in a funk. But I do believe if we listen to the Marco Rubios of the world, people who really know what's going on in the world, yeah, we'll pull together around a cohesive strategy relative to China and maintain balance in the world. That's what we need to do. And, you know, the United States stands for freedom. We got incredible allies, the best of which is Australia. And we need to maintain credibility in the world. We can't just willy-nilly go in and out of these decisions like we did in Afghanistan. You know, we've made mistakes before. The question is not whether you make mistakes, it's what do you do after you make a mistake. I'm with you. I think the United States will get its act together now that we've sort of embarrassed ourselves in a month.